Let's talk about eliciting information from learners. Essentially, eliciting is drawing information and ideas out from learners rather than telling them. And we do this because it helps the teacher see what the learners know. It also keeps the learners engaged and encourages them to draw on what they know or what they partly know. And it makes the students think, even if they don't know the answer, they think about it, and that process really helps them to remember in future. So they better retain the information when you elicit, as opposed to when you just tell them information. Teachers ideally should elicit rather than tell as much as they possibly can. So there are lots of different ways to elicit. You can use flashcards or pictures to elicit what something is. You can use pictures to elicit what learners can see in the pictures, or what might be happening. They can speculate on different things like the weather, the time of year, the situation, what might have happened, what might happen after this scene, and so on. You can use a page from a book or a text to elicit features of texts like headings, subheadings. What might the text be about? Predicting, looking at various fonts and bullet points and things that are being used. You can elicit instructions from learners. So get them to tell you what they need to do and what the activity is. You can use realia, so real life items, to elicit what something is, what it's used for, how it can help with certain situations. You can break words down or break phrases down. For example, if you're trying to elicit a ladybird or a ladybug in American English, you might use a picture, but they might not know it. So you might want to elicit the two parts, lady and bird or bug, and then put them together. And similarly with phrases that are made up of smaller words that they might know. You can break words down into the root words, as well as the suffixes, the prefixes, parts of speech, and that can help learners analyse the language. When you're teaching abstract concepts, it's always quite a good idea to use familiar concepts first. So, for example, if you're trying to teach or elicit brotherhood, you might compare it to neighbourhood first, which is something that they would more likely to be familiar with than brotherhood. When eliciting grammar rules, you could give learners a text with the grammar being used in context and elicit from them what the rule is, elicit the examples from the text, whether they think it's positive or negative or singular, plural, past, present, future. It can all be elicited from the context of an example, so that you don't have to tell them the rule so much. And bouncing questions back to students. So if they ask you a question, throw it back to the learners. Get somebody else to answer it. What do they think? Because that, again, helps you to see what they know, what other people know, and helps them to become more independent and rely on each other more, as opposed to you as the teacher. And always get them to expand on short answers. So if they give you an answer to a question, maybe ask them why or how, get them to give you an example of how it could help or how it could work, so that they're not just giving you a short answer, but giving you more detail. There are a lot of common reasons, or a couple of common reasons, why people avoid eliciting. One is it takes too long. Yes, it does. It does take longer than just telling them the information, but the students retain the information better. They remember it better because the way you've made them think, or the questions you've asked, the pictures you've used, the examples you've used, helps them build that connection in their minds and helps them to retain it. Oh, they won't know the answer. That's a common one. But have you tried? How do you know if you haven't tried? You don't know if the learners have watched a documentary or watched a YouTube video or read a book that happens to have the answer in it. Even in between the last lesson and the lesson you're teaching, they may have come across the information somehow. So it is good to ask them and see if they know. I've tried, but they don't know the answer. That is also another common one. But have you considered how you've worded your questions? Very often, it's because the question's been worded in a slightly ambiguous way, or the vocabulary used in the questions is a bit too complex for them to understand. So it's really important to plan the questions that you're going to use to elicit. Yes, this takes some time, but again, it does help learners in the long run. And the more you practice eliciting, the better you will get at it, and the more it'll just come naturally to you. One final thing to remember is that if students clearly understand the concept, but they just don't understand, or they don't know the actual word or phrase that you're trying to elicit from them, just tell them. There's no point going around in circles. Going too far will only be frustrating for everyone concerned. I hope that's helped you. Thanks for watching.